Good morning, everybody. My name is Michael Allison. I'm the Commercial Director for Roma Finance. Luckily, I'm good at being a commercial director, perhaps not so good at presenting on webinars, it would see, after the last 6 minutes. I've been with Roma for 2 years, and before that, I've been in specialist lending for roughly around 24 years. And what we're going to talk to you about today is what happens post-completion here at Roma. And Natalie will be controlling the slides, so she'll be clicking us through there as we move through. But one thing to make everybody aware of is that we will be recording the webinar today, just so it's available on our website, and we will send a copy to everybody who has attended post-event. Natalie, if we can just move through. Okay, so it's important to talk about our ethos at Roma before we start to look at what we do post-lend, because as a lender, we have a borrower-first mentality. What that means is before we look at anything else on a transaction, we want to understand who the borrower is and more importantly, what they're looking to achieve. What they're looking to achieve on this scheme, what they're looking to achieve through property in general, their experiences that they've had previously, the successes that they've had previously, and any reference points. And only after we understand who the borrower is, and then we'll listen to the story of what they're looking to try and achieve with this transaction, only then will we start to look at things such as the asset. And the borrower first mentality means that we understand and can tailor make our communication to the borrower and understand how much support they need at various points throughout the loan cycle. Just move to the next slide, please, Nat. So today I'm going to be talking across two product sets, bridging and also development finance. But it's important to say that once we fund a loan, there is a knowledge transfer that happens from the mandated underwriter into the customer services team. So what we do at that point, we have what we internally call a love letter from underwriting to customer services, but it's understanding of who that borrower is. What are the key deliverables that they're looking to achieve from the case? What support does the borrower need? Is there anything in there such as when to expect planning to be implemented, or any works that the borrower is going to do first? Just so we're able to tailor make our contact strategy, that we're having informed discussions that should carry on the conversation where it left off with underwriting. It's important that we do that because there's nothing more frustrating for a borrower or any kind of person who's looking for a service to have to explain themselves over and over again. We like to think that a good bridging borrower is working on their exit the day that they draw down the funding. And we like to think that a great bridging lender is there to support them to do it. And we have a contact strategy in place where we are consistently talking to the borrower post-welcome call about everything that sits within the exit of their loan. What we want to steer away from at Roma is what we call the payment shock. So that is to fund a bridging loan and to have silent communication until point of redemption, by which point the borrower, a lot can happen across that 9, 10, 11 months that they've got the loan live. So we start this off, we do a welcome call. We do a welcome call for two reasons. Number one, we like to do a service check. You know, how was the service of obtaining the loan with ourselves, so we can look for any learnings for ourselves as a lender. But more importantly, it's to signpost what happens next. And the reason for that is, in lending, a borrower will probably look at our marketing for 30 seconds. We're with our sales team for roughly around 2 weeks. The underwriting team for 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the transaction. But they're actually with our servicing department for an average 10 months. So the relationship that they should build, there's a lot of intense communication that happens at the onset of the lend, of the bridging lend. But actually, that period of time, the longest period of time that they're with us, is where we want to ensure we have the right communication in place. So we will make that welcome call and we'll signpost that to the borrower. We'll look to see is there any additional help that they need, and we'll talk to them about what to expect over that course of time working with us. And then we follow that through. So if the exit strategy as part of underwriting is refinance or is for sale, that's generally our two major exit strategies. We'll follow that through at the regular touch points that we put in place. The touch points is when we'll actually talk to them and hark back to the original exit strategy and or timeframes that they had in place, and make sure that these are still in place for them. And also, as we've seen, is that we also know that exit strategies can change throughout the course of a loan. Somebody may decide, if they were adding to a portfolio, especially if product sets have changed, they may be looking more to cash in on the asset through sale. But again, it's understanding that and supporting them through it. So you'll see here on item 2 and 3 is we are always looking to contact that borrower. We have an experienced team here at Roma across our customer services and our exit management team. And as we have these conversations, what we'll find from that in our contact strategy is we may find areas where the borrower needs more assistance. So maybe they fell behind schedule. Maybe there's an issue with the exit strategy. Maybe there's an issue with the invoking of planning or the shortage of materials, as we've seen. And what we can do at that point is, dependent on the severity of the issue or the speed bump that the borrower is facing, we can look to transition it to go into a different member of the team who has a relevant skill set to be able to deal with that. At the point when we come to redemption, all our redemptions, the funds are transferred into our solicitor. So we'll instruct our solicitor to liaise directly with the borrower solicitor to organise the DS1, etc. And post that, we'll also do a feedback piece as well. But the important thing to note about our approach to bridging is regular contact with the borrower, because we all should have one eye on the exit, regardless of when that loan was funded. Just move to the next slide for me, please. So on development finance, it's broadly similar, but with a few different quirks. When we do the welcome call to the borrower, there's a real good conversation that goes on about our drawdown process. And our drawdown teams sit away from servicing and are more linked towards our underwriting department. When we talk to them about requirements for drawdowns, because we realise that the drawdown is the liquidity of the site. Our drawdowns are done in arrears of works completed. So that normally means that there is invoices that's been paid, or there are invoices that are due to be paid, where our cash is required. So we know that speed is of the essence there. So we signpost what the borrower needs to do as part of that, so everybody's got a clear understanding of their roles and responsibilities with the drawdown piece. As a lender, our goal is to have boots on the ground of a development site every maximum of 60 days. And the reason for that is we want to ensure that the sites are continuing to operate. We know that there will be speed bumps, and there have been speed bumps. That's why we have our contact strategy in place. But again, we are looking at two things here. We're looking at the scheme on this one. So as they're operating through, have they found a shortage of materials? Have they found a shortage of labour? If they have, what are they doing about it? Are they on track? Are they off track? If they're off track, what's the severity of that compared to the loan term? Do we need to be having conversations now about how we can bring that back around? If they're having, at the same time, are they also working on the exit strategy? So have they engaged with the selling agents if it's a multi-unit scheme where they're looking to sell the assets? Are they selling things off plan? How is that currently looking? What does the marketing look like? We will have those conversations with them throughout the development finance scheme, because it's important to us that we work in partnership with the borrower and the partners, that the scheme not only stays on track, but when we hit a speed bump or we hit an issue, we're able to start to have that conversation of how we can add our expertise to help them navigate those issues. There have been instances where we have been able to assist people in the procurement of materials when timeframes have been tight. There has been the instances when we've been able to make an introduction into relevant services, should that be required, due to our local knowledge and our friends network across the UK and mainland UK. So as we're doing the drawdown, that's great. We will also be doing the exit strategy validation. We like to think of the rule that 3 months out from the expiry of the loan, the exit strategy should be firm. And from that point, we're looking at validating that exit with the borrower. So validating will be, if the borrower is refinancing, we'll be looking for things such as illustration of terms or formal loan offers, just to make sure that there's sufficient funds to be able to redeem that account at the end. And that way, we can all have the conversation earlier, should there not be. And if there's sales in place, it's ensuring that the marketing and the price set for the property is realistic for the area, in line with the expected GDV, and or making sure that it's a liquid market, and if what the borrower are doing to ensure that the sales can move through. As we say, it's a partnership that we're looking to do on our finance, or our approach to finance. The whole idea is that we're all working in tandem to ensure that the loan gets redeemed on time. Just like on a standard bridge that we talked about before, our redemptions go via the solicitors, and that way that we've always got somebody who's there to deal with any DS1s that's required, and they can also have the discussions about any release of part, should the borrower be releasing properties as we go along through sale. Okay, thank you. As I said before, the borrower will see our marketing for 30 seconds, sales for 2 weeks, underwriting 4 to 6 weeks, and servicing for on average 10 months. So we have to be aligned. We have to ensure that the support our borrower needs on taking out the loan, if that changes, we're there to support them too. The borrower are a custodian of our cash, but at the same time, if we've learned anything about the last few years, there's a lot of uncertainty that can come into this world and come into it very quickly. Obviously, we've saw from the Brexit, we've moved into COVID. We've then had the war in Ukraine. We've also had the mini budget, and we're starting to see the exits become a little bit more difficult at the moment through the refinance market and taking a little bit longer than they used to be. So we've got to be there to support our borrowers through this, but long before the point that they're looking to redeem. Having quality conversations with somebody as we're working through a case and as we're working through a loan scheme, having quality conversations at regular intervals builds up the picture for that specific borrower. Challenges affect everybody differently. Some people will have immediate liquidity to be able to rectify a problem. Some people will have the ability to leverage other assets to rectify a problem. Some people simply just need more time. Our skilled team is all about having those conversations and keeping that dialogue open with the borrower to find out what, or if there's anything we need to do to support that borrower and what that should be. Next slide, please. What I'd like to do is just take us through a couple of case studies, and we'll start with the Happy Path one. So this was an auction case, and it gives a flavour of the type of business that we do at Roma. This was an auction purchase, which was a gross loan of £128,000. They used our Roma flow process, which meant that we were able to fund the loan within the timescale, because as we all know, auction timescales are tight, and this borrower actually came to us in a part way through the buying cycle. We were able to get the positive outcome. The borrowers attained the asset, and then they refinanced us within the 6-month window post-event. So that really is what we call our standard case. What we found is over time, things can change. As we said, the exit market can be a little bit slower. Sales can take a little bit longer. Refinances can take a little bit longer for the borrower as well. So whilst we still have some Happy Path transactions, which is great, we've also got some good examples of where it's perhaps not gone to plan for the borrower, or we've looked in our own toolkit as a lender of how we can support. So the next one that we're going to look at is a real good example of this. So this was an eco-sustainable property that we did, and it was a medium development loan. So a medium development loan for Roma Finance is where up to between 50 to 100% of the value of the property is the cost of the works. So it was a version that was looking to be done on the outskirts of Gloucestershire. We worked with the borrower. It became evident that they needed more time. So what actually happened when the security became wind and watertight, they were actually, if they would have come to us at that point, they would have been eligible for a bridging loan. So because of our skill set internally, we were able to rewrite the loan from a medium development loan onto a bridging product for the borrower. Obviously, the rate card is different for a bridging loan, and brought it down lower. Enabled them to extract any cash if they needed to at that point. But it also, more importantly, gave them the time as they now actually entered into a development exit with ourselves. So as opposed to having a look around into the marketplace because they had to pay off a bridge that was coming towards its end, we were able to support that borrower by doing a new loan for them and moving them through to a standard bridge. That enabled them to do the things that needed to be done to get that EPC rating A for the borrower. And you'll see the GDV of 875. They're actually on the market for 1.2 million. So there's enough in there for the borrower to be able to do, but they've now got the time to be able to sell that within to the marketplace, which is correct. So here, this is where Roma, we use what we call our Roma for Life proposition. If a borrower is on one product but is eligible for another one that we have, we can work with them. Obviously, there is still conveyance that may be involved, but we've already built up a knowledge of that borrower, and we can utilize the valuations that are required for the drawdown into part of our decision making for the lend. But what it essentially does, it gives the borrower that more time, but on the different product set. So this was one where perhaps it's not gone according to plan, and the borrower isn't eligible to switch the products. So they came to us for a standard bridging loan, and what they were looking to do was a refurbishment to move it into a 4-bed HMO. And we're seeing more and more of this as people look to maximize the yields from the property, but also protect themselves from the issues and risks of having a single tenancy should they not be able to pay. So we're seeing more of this come through to ourselves, and it sits right within our comfort zone as a lender. Unfortunately, the builder that the borrower had utilised at this on this one didn't quite work according to plan with them, and they had a builder actually they had to disengage with them to bring in somebody else who then had to start to rectify some of the works that were done. And we knew this because of our contact strategy. We were ahead of this because we're having updates with the borrower to see where they're up to. And because we created an environment where they can have a conversation with us, they felt comfortable to have that conversation about when things are going wrong. They didn't want to hide anything back from us as the lender. As the loan was coming towards expiry and the ability for them to exit was still some way away because they still had to complete the project, it doesn't make any sense for us to step in, because the moment we step in as a lender, we can destroy value in a property. We immediately destroy value because we are now taking the borrower out of the equation. What we actually do in this situation is we use our loan extension policy. So we can work with this borrower. You'll see the comparables of the pictures that they've got. We worked with this borrower to ensure that they had the time. We stress tested the exit. So we looked at where they were currently, and if we give them another 3 months, what did that do to the overall value of the loan? Was that plausible for a refinance or a sale? Was that loan amount plausible compared to the value of the property? If it wasn't, we would have conversations with people about what liquidity they can put into the case to enable that further time. And that could be either a cash injection or additional security. We then, at this point, we're able to extend. There's an extension fee that is payable as per our loan documentation. And then we have a tiered system where we'll extend for 3-month periods. We can work with that borrower throughout that 3 months, continuing that contact strategy to make sure that they can buy that time. And sometimes time is all that people actually require to be able to exit a loan. We would also do the same if we could see that a borrower was clearly going through a refinance, but there was perhaps there was a delay with the lender, or things were taking a little bit longer than they would. We'd ask for the evidence, and then we'd make that detailed decision. And that decision's made on a case-by-case scenario. And the reason it's case-by-case is because everybody's situation is different, and it's how is it affecting that borrower, and how are they able to get out of it. What we'll also do here as well is we'll reflect back to what has the communication style been like with this borrower all the way through. Have they been engaging with us? Have they made us aware of this earlier? Have they been open and honest with us? If we've seen things in our visit reports from our drawdowns and we've had a conversation with the borrower, has everything mapped out the way that we expected it to? But we use our extensions as an opportunity for the borrower to have breathing space. And then as a lender, we're still proactive, all about the redemption of the loan and the exit management, because ultimately the relationship is key between us, the borrower, and the broker. Because if we get this right on the schemes that we talked about and the borrower realizes their profit, we should be creating an environment that they want to go again with Roma and with the partner that brought them to us. And the reason for that is, as we build up more and more of a picture of the borrower with their performance, in our borrower first mentality, they are starting to tick more and more boxes for us. Well, actually, it removes even more friction from the lending process. We also know that the borrower has evidence how they can navigate the twists and turns that property development or property refurbishment can bring. And then we're able to also learn from them, learn from the borrower, what does good look like? Because more often than not, we will use some, as we've done today, we'll use some examples of where it's gone really well to help other borrowers to say, have you thought about X? Have you thought about Y? We're really key. One of our key values is we want to ensure that we're adding value into a transaction. We want to ensure that we're adding value into a relationship. And by communicating effectively with a borrower throughout, we want to ensure that we're there for people as we hit the twists and turns, and also celebrate the successes. I know that the drawdown team have some great conversations with people about interior design. You know, some of the things that they like, and there's a real sense of pride for our team as a development comes towards fruition, because they've seen it from first principles to that completed piece. And honestly, there's nothing better a developer or somebody who's refurbishing a property love to talk about than the project that's going really well and showcasing what they've done. So we show that that's important to us as well as a lender, because it's great for us to see when it goes right. It's great for us to show that if there is a twist, a turn, or a speed bump in the road, we're there to support them through it. And ultimately, as a lender, it's also good for us to be ahead of the curve should we see any risks materializing as we continue through the scheme, so we can put mitigations in place and ensure we've got the right people with the right skill set speaking to the borrower when they need them most. Thank you. I think I've just covered that one there. So covered that slide in what I was saying previously. But ultimately, we have a toolkit that we have in place. We can offer forbearance where needed. We have had borrowers who's come to us because their situations, they're not linked to a builder walking off site. They're not linked to a delay in obtaining finance. They're linked to something much more personal to them as the individual. And we have felt that forbearance is relevant for them. But again, it's a case-by-case scenario that we're looking to move that through. You know, when COVID came, like any good lender, we put a forbearance toolkit in place, which was all about time extensions and stress testing with the borrower to ensure that they could get through. And every borrower we applied the extensions to through COVID successfully redeemed us and carried on in their property journey. But for us as a lender, we want to create an environment where our borrowers feel comfortable having conversations with us and picking up the telephone to tell us about things that not just are going well, more importantly when they're struggling or finding an issue themselves. And then we can look into our toolkit to find out how can we help them. Is it a time opportunity? Is it an opportunity for us to move through the product sets? Is it an opportunity for us to put them in touch with somebody who might be able to assist them if it's something more specific? Thank you. Next slide, please. And our experienced team, we've got two people who head up our collections team. So we've got Deborah Chaplin, who's got she won't like me saying this, so we'll stick to say it's over 20 and under 40 years worth of experience in collections, be it from a collector herself, so actually heading up collections for a regulated lender, and then joined Roma 3 years ago. And then we have Tina Parry, who's our customer service and quality manager. So Tina is all about that contact strategy, ensuring that we're there to react to borrowers' needs, should they need something with regards to loan, and be proactive in having those quality conversations with them and finding out when we need to introduce people with different skill sets. And Tina's actually employee number 2, Roma, and has been with us as we've grown, and she's grown with us as well. But these are 2 people who drive our contact strategy forward and are always there for our borrowers to ensure that we can put the right things in place. And that brings us to the end. I'm sorry about the issues at the beginning. I think there's a learning curve for me when it comes to technology, unfortunately. But I am willing to take any questions. I'm not sure if they're able to be verbal or typed, or if you wanted to contact me afterwards, you could do so. But what we will look to do today is give you a window into why it's important to us at Roma that we invest so much time and energy into that borrower communication post-lend. Any questions? Thanks, Mike. Thanks for the feedback. Any more? Okay, so we'll hold it there, and as we say, a copy of this will be sent out for people to review. And thank you very much for your time today. And I hope. Great, a comment came through. Sorry, I was distracted. But I think hopefully what we wanted to get across is borrower first doesn't just mean the lend. It means the way we act and the way that we want to work with our borrower as we continue through. So thank you very much, everybody, for your time today, and enjoy the rest of your day. And I hope the weather gets better wherever you are. Thank you.